quite fascinated by the experience of women online and the misogyny and abuse that we experience in the media and online. And I wanted to host an event to empower women to step up, to speak up, to use their voices, to raise their profiles, without the fear that in doing so they'd be dismissed as bloody difficult women. When we hosted that event, I had never heard of the Metaverse. And I had no idea of the scope of the ambition and the breadth of its possible use. The level of users of the Metaverse is broadly split. It's 53% male and 46% women. Unfortunately, the same parity isn't seen in those who are developing and curating and building the Metaverse. Unfortunately, those jobs, the architects of the Metaverse, still are predominantly held by men. Those techie creative jobs, still the domain of men. This is why I thought I should introduce you to a panel of women who, in their own ways, are challenging that and working to create a metaverse that is exciting and vibrant and welcoming of women.
The vision for the metaverse is essentially a set of virtual spaces that can be explored with other people who aren't in the same physical space as you. So for example, if you've got a friend who's moved all the way to the other side of the world, imagine if you could actually go to your favourite street in Paris and enjoy a coffee there that's been rebuilt in virtual reality. You can feel the ambience of the space and really be able to talk to each other more sort of immersively than you could otherwise. So it's essentially a hint of that, but being able to explore many different spaces together with other people.
In VR, you can now also have hand tracking or with the controllers. So you can actually drive a virtual pair of hands, and with something called inverse kinematic, you can figure out the rest of your body's movement with the hand tracking as well. So I can actually have a virtual body in VR, which is synced with my movement in real life. So when I look down, I see a different body, but exactly moving in sync of my real body. So in VR, I can actually become somebody else, and that's actually an illusion that's really strong. It's really difficult to explain. But I think the thing I want to highlight here is that VR is an interface. It's an interface that taps into the interface we have with reality, which then gives space for us to fix problems we might be experiencing in reality. We have been working with Oxford Psychiatry Department developing an application to help people for smoke cessation. So when you try to stop smoking, maybe you manage to stop for a few weeks and you go to a pub and you see an ashtray, you see people drinking beer, you see other people smoke, and all of a sudden you have the urge to smoke. And if at this point you have access to a cigarette, then that's it, you go back to square one. But in VR, you can basically go through that experience of the urge to having access to a cigarette, but in a safe space with a therapist sitting next to you, and you do that over and over again so we can desensitize you from the urges, so that when you return to real life, you actually don't have that anymore.
I think the biggest barriers facing women when it comes to the metaverse are the amount of jargon there is around it and the perception that you need to be technical, both of which we can sort of demystify and blow out of the water completely. Everybody has access to versions of this technology, even augmented reality on our phones. So I would say, get that out of your head that you need to be technical. You can go and have a career in this area. There's going to be so much need for jobs in this space, and so I would urge women to learn more about this. And as I say, the other barrier for women entering this space is jargon. There's so much unnecessary terminology, things like NFTs, which stands for non-fungible tokens, but that doesn't really help anybody. If we start speaking in plain English, that will start including everybody.
I think there are quite lots of concerns about in the future, lots of people will be spending more time in the metaverse rather than in reality. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. And then secondly, what is real life? If we take off the VR headset, how are we spending our time? Lots of us actually spending lots of time on our phone or on the computer. I have children, right? So I have to choose if I want my children to be playing games like this, sitting on the sofa, or playing games in the metaverse, using their full body. I definitely choose the latter. There are going to be lots of amazing applications that's going to be happening in the metaverse, and I think it's down to individuals how we're going to spend our time in those kind of applications that's emerging.
As a female entrepreneur, when do I have to get my head around what this means for my business? Because tonight I think it's been a lot about the user side, the sort of experiential side, understanding the sort of the safety, etc. But as a business owner, when do we have to get to grips with this in terms of, yes, the opportunity and the connectivity and the opportunity, but also if I don't do this, I am missing out on being able to connect with my potential audience.
There are entire teams within Meta who are sort of educating at scale as to how that can be done. So for example, AR has been around for 5-6 years, and there are entire production companies that have been built up around creating that for businesses, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So we connect businesses with those production agencies, and it will slowly start to become easier, and you will start speaking to people like myself and to help you to kind of bring those solutions into your business. So you'll be thinking about in-feed ads and stories ads and what AR effect might look like for the business.
I'd maybe also add to that, you don't necessarily need to be building like virtual environments tomorrow, or even necessarily in the next like 3 years. Maybe it's more like 5 to 10 year period if we're talking about those kind of scaled or like immersive experiences. But I would say the more you learn about it now and just kind of keeping tabs on what people are up to, I think is probably important for now for a small business. You probably won't necessarily need to be you might not need to be executing this stuff yet, but I think you need to be on top of it.